Good morning, everyone. I'm James Sterling, and you are listening to a special edition of the Courtside Deep Dive. If you have ever doubted that tennis is the most psychologically brutal sport on the planet, if you have ever believed that the player who plays better always wins, or if you have ever thought that a spreadsheet could predict the outcome of human combat, I need you to stop what you are doing right now. Put down the phone, turn up the volume, and listen very closely. Because what happened today at the Mubadala Abu Dhabi Open is not just a match result. It is a glitch in the matrix. It is a statistical impossibility that is somehow manifested in reality. It is a story that defies logic, defies mathematics, and defies the very basic principles of fairness that we assume govern competitive sports. We are talking about a round of 16 clash between the Belarusian veteran Aliaksandra Sasnovich and a 20-year-old Philippine sensation Alexandra Eala. Now, before I tell you the score, I want to give you the numbers. If I told you that player A won 121 points and player B won only 111 points, a massive 10-point deficit, who won the match? You would say player A without hesitation. If I told you that player A won 16 games while player B only won 15 games, who holds a trophy? You would say player A. If I told you that player A served 5 aces to 0, had a better winning percentage on their first serve, and dominated the max points won in a row metric with 8 consecutive points compared to just 4, you would bet your house on player A in almost every universe. Aliaksandra Sasnovich won this tennis match. She was the better player. She hit the ball cleaner. She won more exchanges. She dominated the territory. By every metric we use to measure dominance in this sport, she was superior. But she is not in the quarterfinals. Alexandra Eala is. In a result that will be studied by sports psychologists for years to come, Eala walked through the fire being statistically dismantled and emerged with the only thing that actually matters, the W. The final scoreline reads 2-6, 6-4, 7-6, a tie-break victory in the deciding set that feels less like a win and more like a heist. This was a robbery in broad daylight committed with a tennis racket and an unbreakable will. Today, we are not just recapping a match, we are performing an autopsy on a miracle. We are going to look at how a young player facing a veteran who was aggressively outplaying her managed to navigate the razor-thin margins of the scoring system to steal a victory. We are going to talk about the Simpson's paradox of tennis, where you can lose the battle of points but win the sets. We are going to talk about the 17 breakpoint opportunities Eala created, a number that screams persistence. We are going to talk about the 0 aces, 0, meaning she had to work for every single point without the luxury of free power. This is a story about the difference between playing tennis and playing the score. It is about the ability to weather a storm that lasted for 3 grueling sets. While Sasnovich was painting the lines and racking up stats, Eala was in the trenches, muddy, bruised, winning the points that were ugly, the points that were long, and most importantly, the points that ended the sets. We have so much to cover. The context of this round of 16 match is massive for Asian tennis. Eala is carrying the hopes of the Philippines, a nation star for a global tennis superstar. And today, she showed that she doesn't just have the talent, she has the stomach for fight. And for Sasnovich, this is the kind of loss that haunts you. To look at the stat sheet in the locker room and see that you were plus 10 in points, plus 1 in games, and yet you are packing your bags, that is a special kind of pain. So buckle up, we are going deep. We are going to break down the mechanics of the first set collapse, the tactical shift in the second, and the suffocating pressure of that final tiebreak, where experience bowed down to youthful audacity. This is not just news. This is a deep dive. Now, let's strip this down to the bone. To understand the magnitude of what Alexandra Eala achieved today, we have to understand the opponent. Alexandra Sasnovich is no pushover. She has been inside the top 30 in the world. She has reached the second week of Grand Slams. She has a game built on flat, penetrating ground strokes that skid to the court, making it incredibly difficult for opponents to defend. She is a rhythm disruptor. And coming into this match, she was a lucky loser in the draw, but she played like a woman with a new lease on life. The match began, and frankly, it looked like a mismatch. The first set was a clinic. Sasnovich took it 6-2. If you look at the stats from that opening hour, it was one-way traffic. The max games won in a row stat for the match is 4, and I guarantee you those 4 games came right here. Sasnovich was seeing the ball like a beach ball. She was stepping in, taking the ball on the rise and dictating play. Eala, on the other hand, looked shell-shocked. Her lefty forehand, usually her biggest weapon, was being rushed. She was leaking errors. She was being pushed 5-6 feet behind the baseline. At this point, the live betting odds would have had Sasnovich as a monumental favorite, and rightfully so. When you lose a first set 6-2 on hard court, the mountain you have to climb is steep. But this is where the genius of Alexandra Eala's performance begins to reveal itself. Most young players, when blitzed in the first set, panic. They try to hit harder. They try to match the power of the opponent. They try to hit aces they don't have. Eala didn't do that. She looked at the data, even if just intuitively, and realized she couldn't out-hit Sasnovich. She had 0 aces in the entire match. 0. She knew she wasn't going to get free points, so she changed the terms of engagement. In the second set, Eala stopped playing Sasnovich's game and started playing a game of attrition. The scoreline flipped 6-4 to Eala. But how? How do you turn a blowout into a dogfight? You look at the breakpoint stat. This is the single most telling number of the entire night. Alexandra Eala generated 17 breakpoint opportunities. 17! That is an absurd number for a 3-set match. It means that in almost every single service game, Sasnovich was there, harassing her, pressuring her, forcing her to come up with big shots just to hold serve. Sasnovich saved 12 of those breakpoints, which is a credit to her clutch serving, but the mental toll of facing 17 breakpoints is exhausting. It's like trying to hold a door shut while someone is constantly battering it from the other side. Eventually, the hinges give way. Eala only converted 5 of those chances, a conversion rate of about 29%, which isn't great, but it was enough. It was volume over efficiency. She just kept coming. Contrast that with Sasnovich. She had 11 breakpoint opportunities and converted 6. She was clinically more efficient. She was taking her chances better, but she didn't create enough of them in the second and third sets because Eala tightened up her service games. Let's talk about the serving stats because they paint a picture of 2 very different strategies. Sasnovich served at 69% first serves in. Eala was at 71%. Eala served safer. She took a little pace off to ensure the ball was in play. Why? Because she trusted her baseline game to win the point if she could just neutralize a return. Sasnovich, with 5 aces and 5 double faults, was high risk, high reward. She was going for the lines. And while that worked in the first set, those 5 double faults, 3 of which likely came in high pressure moments, were killers. Eala only committed 3 double faults. In a match this close, giving away 2 fewer free points is massive. Then we arrive at the third set, the decider, the arena where reputations are forged. At this point, the physical toll is immense. Both players have been running side to side for over 2 hours. The third set was a microcosm of the entire match, Sasnovich having the statistical edge in terms of raw power and points won, but Eala having the edge in mental tenacity. The third set went to tiebreak, 6 games all, and this is the cruelest part of tennis. You play 12 games, you run miles, you hit hundreds of balls, and it all comes down to a race to 7 points. Look at the tiebreaks 1 column. Sasnovich, 0. Eala, 1 in that tiebreak. The total points disparity, the fact that Sasnovich had won 10 more points in the match overall, ceased to exist. The slate was wiped clean. It was about who could execute now, and it was Eala. Perhaps it was a youthful hunger, perhaps it was a lack of scar tissue, but Eala played the tiebreak with a fearless aggression that Sasnovich couldn't match. The final score of the tiebreak was 7 points to 5. Eala edged it by the skin of her teeth. If you look at receiving points won, Sasnovich 153, Eala 151. Again, Sasnovich was better on the return. Service points won, Sasnovich 68, Eala 60. Sasnovich was better on serve. But tennis scoring is not cumulative. It is compartmentalized. You can win a game 40-0, winning 4 points to 0, and you get 1 game on the scoreboard. Your opponent can win a game after 6 deuces, winning, say, 12 points to 10, and they also get 1 game. Sasnovich's wins were likely dominant. Eala's wins were scrapes. Eala's wins were survival. But on the scoreboard, a scrape counts exactly the same as a blowout. This is what we call winning the big points. Eala won the points that closed out games. She won the points that converted breaks. She won the last point of the match. Sasnovich won the points in the middle of games, the points at 15-15, the points that make your stats look good but don't put your name in the quarterfinals. We also have to talk about the win percentage on second serve. This is often the stat that decides professional matches. When the first serve misses and the pressure is on, how do you perform? Sasnovich won 59% of her second serve points. Eala won 57%. They were virtually identical. This shows that despite Eala's lack of power, 0 aces, her second serve was not a liability. She used placement, she used spin, likely a heavy lefty kick serve to keep Sasnovich from teeing off. She protected her weakness just enough to stay alive. The max points won in a row is another fascinating divergence. Sasnovich reeled off 8 straight points at one stage. That is 2 love games back-to-back. That is dominance. Eala never won more than 4 points in a row. She never had a streak. She was never on fire. She was just consistently, annoyingly present. She was a mosquito that Sasnovich couldn't swat away. Every time Sasnovich thought she had broken Eala's spirit with a run of 8 points, Eala would come back and win a gritty 30-40 point. This result shakes the bracket. It sends a shockwave through the draw. Eala is not just a prospect anymore. She is a closer. She is a player who can look a veteran in the eye, absorb a statistically superior performance, and still find a way to shake hands at the net as the winner. For Sasnovich, this is a tragedy of efficiency. To convert 54% of your breakpoints, 6 11s is actually excellent. Usually, if you convert 6 breakpoints in a match, you win. But she ran into a player who refused to adhere to the laws of probability. Sasnovich will look back at the third set tiebreak, specifically the point at 5-5 or 4-4, and realize that she hesitated. She blinked. And in professional tennis, if you blink against Alexandra Eala, you miss the flight to the next round. So, where do we go from here? What does this result actually mean in the grand scheme of the WTA Tour? First, it solidifies Alexandra Eala's reputation as a mentality monster. You cannot teach what she did today. You can teach a forehand, you can teach a kick serve, you can teach footwork. You cannot teach the refusal to lose when the numbers say you should. That comes from inside. That comes from a deep competitive fire that separates the good players from the great ones. Today, Eala proves she has a heart of champion. Second, it highlights the brutal nature of the lucky loser spot. Sasnovich was given a second life in this tournament, and she played well enough to justify it. She played top 30 tennis today. But tennis is cruel. It doesn't care if you played well. It cares if you won the last point. Sasnovich is leaving Abu Dhabi playing great tennis, but with nothing to show for it but a heartbreaking stat sheet. Third, this sets up a tantalizing quarterfinal. Eala is now battle-hardened. She has spent hours on the court. She has faced adversity. She has proven she can win ugly. A player who can win when they're playing their B game, or statistically their C game compared to the opponent, is a dangerous player. The rest of the field will look at this result, and they won't see the 111 points. They will see the W. They will see a player who doesn't go away. As we sign off tonight, I want you to remember this match the next time you look at a box score. Don't just look at the aces. Don't just look at the total points. Look at the story. Look at the struggle. Today, Alexandra Sasnovich won the calculator, but Alexandra Eala won the match. This has been a special edition of the Courtside Deep Dive. We have witnessed a statistical anomaly, a defiance of logic, and the rise of a star who simply refuses to be beaten. I'm James Sterling. We will see you for the quarterfinals, where hopefully the math makes a little more sense. But in tennis, as we learned today, you never can count on it.